So this video is going to look through the process of building an algorithm app that I designed for students. It encompasses things such as using the databases, object-oriented approaches so that you're able to navigate around the program, uses Pyqt5 as a user interface, and also makes use of the messenger functionality so that you can actually send emails. So it does cover quite a lot of content. I will split the video up. Although there's not that much code, it's important to understand exactly what the code is doing. Before we begin on the user interface side, though, I'm just going to demonstrate so you can see what the end goal is. So it's set up that you can choose a number of questions. I've just done it from 1 to 10, and then it will randomly generate questions from the GCSE or A level, depending on what they choose. At the moment, my database only contains GCSE questions, so I'm just going to put this in here. I'm just going to choose 2 just for demonstration purposes. So it will load with one of the questions that it's randomly generated, and of course the students will be quite familiar with these style of questions. And the aim is that they attempt to answer it, then obviously they mark their own work and get them used to understanding how to mark against the mark scheme when their answer might not be exactly the same, but understanding where to identify that they've still correctly answered the question. So as an example here, I'm not going to write the whole thing out, but we just, for example, put age is equal to integer or int user input or something similar along those lines. The user then, the student has a chance to check it and the actual correct answer will come out. They then will grade themselves against how they think they did, and then we'll move on to the next question. It's worth noting that if they try to check the answer without doing that, it will actually give them an error. And also, if they were to, for example, say, I don't know, which they seem to like to answer quite a lot of questions, then when it comes to checking it, they can't go back and actually make changes. This is now locked and they can't undo that. They then can give themselves another score and then it moves on. As we'd only chose 2 questions, it will now give me the option to email these results. And for this, we've just put in myself and my fellow teacher, Miss Kane. They can put their student ID in and they can send their email. So this is the end result of what we're actually going to be building. So with that in mind, we're going to actually start with the user interface files. Hopefully you'll have Pyqt5 installed. If not, then I will put a link into a similar video that's already been made which shows you how to install that and get that ready. I tend to use Sublime Text Editor for my environment. You can also do this in any environment, Idle or Visual Basic or Visual Studio Code, depending on what your preference is. Okay, so I'm going to open up Qt Designer and I'm going to start by building the first screen that I was using, which is just my main landing screen. So the way I'm going to do this is I already had Designer open, so I'm just going to go File, New, and I want to choose a main window. I'm going to click the Create button and I'm quite happy with the size of this actually. That's quite similar to the size I had. So now I'm going to start building it. So bearing in mind the things that I obviously need are a couple of labels which are just going to hold those key pieces of information such as the name of the app. I'm going to start with one of these at the very top here, and I wanted the label so that I could select how many questions they wanted. So I'm going to start with these 2, so I'm going to just keep this simple and we're just going to call this algorithms app. I of course need to make this much bigger and we're going to look at some formatting stuff later, but just for the moment I'm just going to increase the size of this. And I do this by coming over here to the font. I click on here and I can make this, we'll go for maybe 36 will be a nice size. And I do need to increase then my box alongside this. I'm also then going to come here and I'm going to change this. So I think the question was how many questions do you want to do? Again, I obviously need to make this bigger because it will not show me what is in there otherwise. And I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so that when you're following along to this video, it's a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to make this around a size 16. So that does mean that I, of course, now need to make the box bigger as well. Okay, now in order to allow the students to select what they want, I'm going to be using one of my input widgets and I'm going to use a combo box. So just to confirm what widgets are, if you've watched previous videos you'll already know this, but widgets are our ability to interact with user interfaces. So we talk about things such as text boxes and buttons, drop-down menus, radio buttons, calendar widgets. There are all different ways that we're actually able to interact with the products that we've built and the user interfaces we have. So I've just come over here, I've selected combo box and I've dragged it onto there. And what I now need to do is actually add some items to my combo box. So I'm just going to double click on this. And just in here, I'm just going to literally add different numbers. Of course, I'm going to go up to 10, just as I did in my main program. Perfect. Just before we go any further, if I actually now want to preview what this is going to look like and check that it's working, if I go to Form, and then go to Preview, I can literally just see now this is how it's going to look. So obviously it's looking quite plain at the moment, but it does the job. The next thing I want to do now is bring a couple of buttons in. This is just the easy way of being able to make a decision and change the program course based on which one they prefer. And I had it set so it was a choice of GCSE or A-level. I'm going to actually copy this button and I'm going to paste it so that I have exactly the same size without too much trouble formatting. And I'm going to come in here, GCSE and A-level. And the reason I haven't changed the font yet is I'm actually going to change the font both times by highlighting the whole area, just holding my mouse and dragging. And then I can actually change the font all at the same time without having to manually come in here and do that. That looks a little bit better. Now I'm just going to highlight both of these and move them together because I do like things to be quite symmetrical. So we've now got the very basics. Now of course this isn't the prettiest app you've ever made, but this is just to really focus on the foundations of how to use Pyqt. We can of course choose, in fact I'm going to choose my absolute favourite font that everyone hates, and I don't know why, it just does not get enough time, so I'm going to Comic Sans this. That's right, we are Comic Sans in, okay. Perfect, so that's screen one. Now before we move on to any other screens, we now need to go and do the most important thing arguably within Pyqt5 development process, and that is renaming the widgets on our screen. The reason we need to do this is because we may decide to have multiple screens, we would definitely will in this case, and when we write the code, we need to be able to tell the code which object we are referring to. Right now I already have two buttons, and these buttons are labelled push button and push button 2. If I was to hand you my code and it said if push button 2 clicked, what does push button 2 mean? It's a very terrible variable name, it doesn't have any concept. So instead what I'm going to come over here is my naming convention is I tend to do BTN for a button, LBL for a label and TXT for a text, and I'm actually going to rename these. When I call them in my program I will literally write A-level BTN and that will directly reference this object. Likewise I'm going to do my combo box and I'm going to call this num of Qs and then I'm going to put combo. Now I don't actually need to change the name of this label because I'm not going to be doing anything with them. You could come along, you might want to call this one header label and so on. And that is good practice, but it isn't entirely necessary. Just think that anything you need to access, whether that is a label you're updating, a text box that you're going to be taking user input for, a label to display things, you must make sure that you name them correctly. I'm also going to name this window, currently it's called main window, but I actually want to call this home screen because this is kind of my first screen that I get to. Now what I'm going to simply do is save this and then we're going to start on the next window. So I'm going to come along, I'm going to create a new project folder within my project and I'm going to call this one algorithm apps. You can see there's a few ones that did not go to plan. Rhythm apps. Inside here I'm going to just put my UI file and I'm going to make sure that I give this a really easily identifiable name because I will be directly referencing this within my program also. So I need to make sure that I know exactly what this file is called. Then I'm going to save that. Now what you can do is you can just minimize this and we can put this screen over here so that we can go back to it at a later date. And for now I need to open another screen. So I'm going to open up my main window and we're going to start on the next screen. And now the next screen is going to be arguably kind of our busiest screen, because this is where we're just going to straight away load up that question. And there's quite a few boxes that we need, so we're going to get started with the label box at the top. And that label is a display widget, so we know that it's going to be down here. And this is going to be where we're going to have a question, so that they are clear about where the question is. Again, we're going to leave the formatting for a little bit, because I'm going to do it all in one go to keep it consistent. I am then going to put a label here for actually displaying the question as it comes out. And at the moment, I'm actually just going to write question out in here, just so that I'm clear when I'm doing my formatting. And one of the things I'm going to do straight away is I'm going to go along and, just for visual purposes, I'm going to add a frame to this. So for Q frame, at the moment, we've got different options, and I'm just going to put a panel around it, and it just means I can then see this is where that's going to go. The next thing that I want to do is put a couple of labels in to represent their attempt, and I'm going to say your answer. It must be lowercase. But again, make this a bit bigger, but I'm not going to change the font just yet. And then I'm going to put a label in saying suggested answer. I'm not sure what I actually put it as before, but I think suggested answer is a good idea, because it's not definitively the only answer, it's just the suggested answer. A couple of other things that I do need to do before I, just to think through what I'm needed. I'm going to explain the difference between a line edit and a text edit. I'm going to show you what these look like. Now you can already see one is much bigger than the other. A line edit is perfect for things like usernames and passwords, where you're just going to have one line of text. The text edit is more used to the type of text that we're used to. And if I, for example, open up a new text file, I can sort of demonstrate to you that I have got the ability to write. And then not only can I do that, I can copy, I can paste. And that's a text editor. This is an ability to not only write text, but actually edit that text once it's written. A line edit doesn't have the same ability. You might be able to copy and paste, but you wouldn't, for example, have as much flexibility to create paragraphs and new words. It is restricted to one line. This is going to need a text edit. It has its own set of methods, so we have to talk about those when we do the code, but it's just to point out those key differences. I'm going to make this box nice and big so they've got plenty of space to write. And I'm also then going to come in and I'm going to put this one as a label, and we're going to update this label with an image of the actual answer. I personally chose images just because I think that it was just much quicker for formatting, and the main focus of this was just to get something up and working quite urgently for my year 11s, because they're struggling a little bit on algorithms as it is. There's some absent teachers last year, so obviously we're just trying to get them back on track. So suggested answer, and this is going to be my answer image. Okay, again, I'm going to come along and put a frame on this, because otherwise it just looks very empty and it'll be difficult to see where that's going to come out. And I'm going to put a box on this one. It can be a panel. In fact, let's keep it a panel and then it's consistent. A couple of other things that we need then is I'm going to need a button where I'm able to check my answer. Then I need a button for next. So I'm just going to put this one over here. This will be for my next question. I'm also going to have a place where they can have their mark. Now this is going to require a couple of separate labels just so that it makes it easy. I mean, you could do it as one actually. So let's put this one as mark. I personally just found it easier to use two separate labels, but you can use one. It just depends on how we want to do the code in the background. But I had it so that one of them had was empty, and this was the mark that they will be putting in. And I'm going to put this in. Sorry, no, I don't want a label here. I want a text edit, and I'm actually just going to put a line edit and make this much smaller. So this is their opportunity to put their mark in, and then I need to have another label which is going to be made up of, I'm just going to put this in at the moment, and then we're actually going to generate this with the maximum mark. What I actually did, just to make it much easier in the background of the code, when I did it myself was I actually then put another label in so that the dash is always there, and this one is just going to be updated with the maximum mark, which is pulled through from the database when the question is loaded. So we'll stick with that method for the moment. It just means I don't have to go through and change my code, but it would just mean a case of concatenating this one when you update the maximum mark, so it wouldn't be too big of a deal anyway. Okay, I'm not going to pay too much attention to formatting and making everything straight, but obviously we want this to look a little bit neater. I am just straight away though going to go through and make my font bigger. Not hugely bigger, but I just want it so, especially for the purposes of making this video, just so we can see it a bit clearer. And then I need to come across here and make some changes, because as we can see this is now too big. Maximum mark doesn't matter because the maximum mark is only going to be a single integer. I'm going to make this and put this in line a little bit more. There we go, that looks a bit better. That now needs to come down to here, and I'm going to put this one down to here a little bit. Okay. You can see here already, need to make some changes because I've got this one which now doesn't fit, so I need to make sure that's bigger. I need to come across here and make all of this bigger. Now I think that is everything. I am just going to very quickly check I actually have the user files that I've already made, just to make sure I haven't missed out on anything, but no, that's it. So this is exactly the one I made. It's all very much the same. With that in mind now, most important step was to go through and change my labels. So what things need to be changed? This absolutely needs to be, because this is going to be where the answer is going to come out for the question. So this is going to be question, and I'll just put O label, so question out label. I'm going to come along to here, TextEdit, so it's going to be answer TXT. This one is going to be answer label. And the TXT label becomes quite apparent actually here, because they both are related to the answer. One of them is a text box, one of them is a label. It'd therefore be very easy for me to remember when writing my code that one of them is a TXT and one of them is a label. Right, check definitely needs to be changed because I'm going to be using my check button. I also need to set up my next button, and then I'm going to come along here and I want to update this. So this is going to be mark text. And again, this is the point that this is going to be mark label. So I know when I'm writing my code that they're different. The word mark itself doesn't need to change, nor does the /. So I'm actually not going to do anything with those. Okay. And I am just, only because it's just irritating me, I'm just going to make it a bit bigger. Lovely. Suggested answer, none of those need to change. I'm just going to make these a touch bigger because I increased the font size, and the bottom of the G was just cut off then. And that is our file done. Now I'm just going to change my window name. Again, this is currently still called min. So we want to call this question win. Okay. And then I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to save this. And I'm just going to call this one Q win. And I'm going to save it. So that's the first two screens done. We of course now need to move on to the next one, and the next screen that I want to do is just my email screen. So I actually did have more screens previously, and I had the option for it to display the results. I might go back to adding that functionality in, and then I might do that in another video, but I just found it was actually easier just to email the results straight away. So emailing the results is going to be replicating this screen here, but just to be clear, I'm just going to talk you through it very quickly. So file, new, main window. Again, we're going to keep them all the same size, and then the bits that I need to add in here is a drop-down combo box. I chose to do it that way. You might want to make this a line edit so that they can just put the email in, and I just added in whether they wanted to email it to me, or if they wanted to email it to one of the other teachers in my department. Okay, I'm going to put a label here so that they know what this is related to. They know that they're choosing it for their teacher. I'm going to make this bigger because I know I'm going to make my font bigger in just a second. Need to make this a bit bigger, and I would obviously make this as big as you need for the longest teacher name that you have. I've also put in the option for them to put in their student ID, and I think that that's quite important, especially with the amount of students that we have. And again, I need to make this bigger. I'm going to extend it this way so that it hasn't quite stayed aligned, that's a shame. And again, I just think a line edit is perfect for this because I'm not expecting rings. I just want a simple student ID. So I'm going to put this in here. And then the last thing I want to do is, I think, I'm just going to double check, but I think I had an email results and a send button. That was it. So I'm going to put my button in for send. And just a screen, just a simple label to say that this is the email results page. Okay, so I'm going to increase all the text sizes in one go, but then I think I'm going to go through and just change a little bit more of the text sizes on another bit as well. So let's make our font, it's going to be, we'll keep it with 12, I think that's, or maybe 14. Okay, now I definitely need to come and make some changes now because I've made my boxes really big. And actually, looks like that's been sort of a good size. I'll make this one bigger because the actual text font that they write in will also now be the same size. It will be 12, so that will be consistent. But I am going to make my results bigger because that just does not look right. I think last time we kind of went for 36. I'm going to go for that. Obviously, we'll choose everyone's favourite font. I'm going to choose Comic Sans again. I will defend Comic Sans. I just think it's a very happy looking font, but anyway. And I've got my send button. Perfect. Obviously, I'm just going to view these so I can preview or Control R, and you can see that I then have the option. It's not doing anything at the moment, but we've got this base functionality here. And of course, the next thing is to go through and to rename all my objects. So I'm going to call this one Teacher Combo. Student text or student ID text would be more efficient, so I'm going to put that in. And send button. And I don't need to change anything else. I'm going to leave the others and just change my thing to be email win. And I'm going to save my file as email win. So I now have my 3 user files that are going to make up the front end of my program. You can obviously come in here and change the colour scheme, and I will do another video that covers that. That's not something that I'm particularly concerned about at this stage of my students. I really just think that functionality is more important, and then I let them go wild on the colours as they wish to. But obviously you have lots of different things that you can do with the style sheet and add in different colours so that you can choose how you'd like things to look. So I'm going to stop here with this video, and in the next video I'm actually going to cover writing the code. That's going to be maybe spread over 2 videos, and hopefully this will be able to at least just get you started, and we're going to look at databases as well.